Hi, this is Maurice LaMarche, and that name will mean nothing to you nor the sound of my voice, unless I become the brain from TV's Pinky and the Brain, or Calculon, the star of all my circuits from Futurama. Oh, there's a bottle, so from Futurama.
Puny human, this is Morbo the newscaster. On tonight's news, you're listening to Still Toking with on the Dorkening Podcast Network. I will destroy you.
Now I'm proving that this battle I am never losing. I'm choosing to ignore the cuts and bumps and bruises.
Why, thank you, Jar Jar. I
No
don't
problem.
know why it didn't take me off. Anyway,
You forgot to push the button there, Leo.
I didn't hit the button. I'm blaming StreamYard on that one. Anyway, happy Wednesday. My name is Leo. I'm the monkey behind the keyboard here. You are watching Still Token with us, Benjamin.
Yo. So, yeah, Leo, I gave you props for the last, 5 weeks for not messing anything up. And, of course, tonight, you muted yourself. But it's okay. It's okay. Because I am so psyched for tonight's show. We have had a lot of amazing guests and some legends, but this guest tonight is truly, by far, the most legendary to ever hit this screen with us. I'm beside myself. I'm actually a little starstruck right now. I'm going to leave it right there. Jar Jar, I'm going to let you introduce the guest tonight.
Well, I hope you all are ready for this. Miss Ruta Lee, legendary Miss Ruta Lee.
Legendary in my own mind.
Oh, legendary in all of our minds, I believe.
Absolutely.
I'm only legendary because I'm so frigging old. The fact that I'm still walking and talking and able to converse with you, adorable gentlemen. By the way, your opener is worth the price of admission. I realize nobody's paying for this, but I salute everyone who has turned the dial to put you on. It's just great.
It is quite the opening.
That was that's our amazing eye candy, Mr. Leo Pond over here. He does the openers for us.
Yes, Leo, who lost how to push the button with his thumb.
Right?
I'm going to tease you about that forever, Leo.
No worries. That's all I do is I just hit buttons. That's all I do. It's easy.
All of this is also mystical, magical to me anyway. The fact that we are in different corners of the world, and yet we're talking to an audience that are in different corners of the world as well. It's all so magical. And of course, I am a total mental incapacitated person when it comes to anything electronic. I'm still praying that we go back to the days of on and off switches. And if you turned it to the right, it made it louder. And if you turned it a little less, that was it. That made me happy. Now I'm lost.
Well, now you actually have to talk to the things and tell them to get louder. Be like,
oh, yes. Right? I always expect Siri to give me a smart-ass answer.
But as far as being legendary, you are legendary in so many ways. So many ways.
Well, the fact that I have had a career, and if not a full career, a job in some way or another in this business for, God, I'm 88 years old now. So that's a lot of years that I've been working. I think I started when, well, I did as a little tiny baby, but that was at the church socials and that kind of thing, not getting money for anything.
Right.
I did get money for jobs in Massachusetts, I believe, when I was a little girl. You know, I think they may have given me $50 to come and do something, whatever it was, when I was tap dancing and doing acrobatic stuff and singing silly songs. I don't know. And then it depended on Hollywood to finally feed me properly, you know, with a paid job. And I see where SAG is out of trouble again. we're now finished striking and doing
for now
for 3 years anyway.
Yeah.
But
right.
It's been a wonderful life. And do you know that I will tell you something very honestly, that the best financial move I ever made was not stage or movies or television. They were very good to me, but it was my 5 years on Home Shopping Network.
Really?
Isn't that amazing? Yes, I went in as a guest star performer, seller.
Mm-hmm.
And I sold whatever product they were asking me to kind of front. And that was great. It was always something that I liked. And my husband introduced them to a vitamin product that was a spray vitamin where you just sprayed it into your mouth. And what a great way to get vitamins, because the people that clean the porta potties, the Here's Johnny's and all of those things, say what they find in there is not just human waste or gold rings or watches or anything. It's undissolved vitamin tablets.
Really?
Undissolved pills is what they wash out of those things most. So when you spray the vitamins, they are absorbed within 30 seconds in the lining of your mouth, and there they are. And there's no vitamin pill to swallow, no garbage to take down with the pill, which is kind of wonderful. And so I sold those for 5 years on Home Shopping Network. And I had a nice tiny little 10-cent cut or whatever it was of every unit sold. And wow, that was financially fabulous. So I say to all of my star type friends, if ever you have a really good product, take it to either QVC or Home Shopping Network or whoever is out there. And trust me, if you believe in your product and it's good, you'll do well.
Well, I'm really interested in the vitamin spray because I take like 20 vitamins every morning. So.
And I hate to tell you how many of them you didn't.
Are just wasted.
Yeah, wasted is right.
I've always known it. I talk it over with my doctors, and they're just like, most of that's. I'm like, yes, I know, but my wife tells me I have to take them.
Well, I'm glad you're taking them because you look damn good, honey. You really look cute.
Thank you. Not bad for 87.
Right under me, sure.
Right.
We all went to talk at one time.
Of course.
Go ahead, Leo.
Yeah, you mentioned a little bit ago about paying gigs. I read that your first paying job in Hollywood, you were only 16. Is that true?
Yes. Yes. But my first job that I actually, well, it wasn't a job, it was an amateur show, and I was all of maybe 5. And my mother put me in a sparkly little thing, and I sang a Lithuanian or sometimes thought to be Russian song, To Mexicali Rose. But I won, I don't know, $10 or something and a watch. Oh,
fantastic.
That was just unbelievable.
The bee's knees.
But my first paid job, of course, was television. And I think it was, I'm not sure, but I think it was Superman that was my first job.
Oh, then wow. You just got this nerd's heart going. I was like, Superman? Really?
Oh, yes. Isn't that great? And then, of course, my first movie job, which is my favorite to this day, was 7 Brides for 7 Brothers. And if you stop and think about how fortunate was I to get a job in a movie that was kind of the sob sister to everything that was going on at MGM. It wasn't the big money production, but it sure wound up being a big money producer because it is named one of the top movies ever made in Hollywood. And to think that I was in it in my first job. And those were the days when we worked 6 days a week, not 5 days a week like now. It was a 6-day week with Sunday off. And then another movie that I did later on, which was Witness for the Prosecution, was another one of the great films that was named as a top 100 ever made in Hollywood. So while I certainly didn't star in either one of them, I was nevertheless in them, and therefore take full credit for making them what they are today.
Absolutely.
I can't even imagine the parties you must have attended, the elbows you rubbed with and stuff back in those classic Hollywood days. That's
those days were good days, and one of the best for me were parties that I was very, very much involved in, and they were the great big huge parties that Debbie Reynolds and I were the head mothers of an organization called the Thalians. And we started out raising money. Oh, this is kind of fun. I wasn't there then, but Debbie was one of the founding members, and Hugh O'Brien was our first president. Margaret Whiting was our second president. Debbie was third. Donald O'Connor was fourth. Then I became president, and I've been either president or chairman of the board ever since. You want to talk about stupid? I may be darling, but boy, I'm stupid when it comes to taking on a responsibility and not letting go. But we did the most glorious events, and we honored the most wonderful people, not just in Hollywood, but out of New York and stage and on the small screen, and of course on the big screen. And everybody, like I was telling you earlier, from Frank Sinatra through Lucille Ball, through, oh Lord, Carol Burnett, through Whoopi Goldberg, everybody were our honorees. And those were the big, glamorous Hollywood parties that the entire press would attend and look at. And the lineup was fabulous, and the people were gorgeous. And stop and think, to think that we had Clint Eastwood just a couple of years ago as our honoree. It took me 20 years, boys, to get him. 20 years of not giving up and getting him to say yes. He was always very reticent about appearing somewhere and getting an award or being honored. He was always kind of a little too humble for that sort of thing. But boy, he was a wonderful honoree and just absolutely special with guests. And this year, just a couple of days ago, 2 days ago, we honored a man that when we mentioned his name, when I opened my mouth and said, come to the Thalians this year, we're honoring Gary Sinise, that the people around America all went, oh, wow, what a great guy. Now, you never think of him that way. He's a wonderful actor, but he's not in the forefront of everything exactly. And yet America knows about him and knows how wonderful he is in entertaining and working and doing and setting up all kinds of programs and scholarships for families of veterans. I just think he is so wonderful. And he was our honoree, and needless to say, he was wonderful. And I just got the sweetest note from him. Oh, what a lovely, lovely man. If ever you have the opportunity to talk with Gary Sinise, grab it, pay for it, just scream with delight, because he's just such a lovely man.
He is amazing. He is amazing.
One of my favorite actors from the Bubba Gump and the Forrest Gump movie. Like
Bubba Gump.
I call him Bubba Gump.
Well, everybody.
Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah, he's got new legs.
Yeah. he's just
I
lovely.
love him in there's some cop show he does every now and
he does the Florida version of was it not NCIS?
Yes, CSI.
CSI.
Yeah.
CSI.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank God, because he's just wonderful. And that's where I last saw our darling Kathy Garver. She was at our event, and I mean, there is an adorable girl. Kathy Garver has continued her career to the betterment of the world, because she makes appearances and does things for charitable works, and she's just such a darling girl. And I'm going to see her Sunday at an event where she is doing a reading of a Truman Capote, I don't know, play, a Truman Capote book, a Truman Capote poem. I have no idea of what I'm seeing, but I don't care. I would see her read the phone book. She's great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, she is. She's an amazing lady. I had a lot of fun chatting with her. Not as much fun as I'm having right now, though.
Oh, well, you're not saying anything. I'm doing all the talking.
Yes, she is.
That's okay.
She's doing all the work for us tonight.
I know. She's making it so easy for us tonight.
What was it like when you got your star on the Hollywood Walk there?
Oh, that was a great year for me. I got my star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which really made me feel great. I just sort of felt like, gee, I don't know about this. I also was honored by the president of Lithuania with
Yes.
Lithuania's greatest awards that they give to civilians. And but I have to tell you the story of how I got the star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Nobody selects. They just sort of, whoever the committee is says, well, we've got a space down here on Vine Street or over here or over there, and it just sort of happens. I didn't know where my star was going to be. When I was going to Hollywood High as a youngster, I would go and get a job in a local movie theater somewhere as an usherette. Now, most of your viewers won't know what the hell an usherette was, but we were little girls or boys that worked in the theaters and had a flashlight and took you down to the seats you wanted to sit in. Not that they were assigned, but wherever there were good seats, you put people in them. And then I could stand at the top of the aisle with my little flashlight in hand and watch the movie queens, you know, watch Betty Grable and Lana Turner and all these marvelous ladies, June Haver and Mitzi Gaynor, all of whom, by the way, became friends in later years. But I got a job at Grauman's Chinese. Well, that was a big deal, right? And there I stood in my pretty little Chinese tunic and the black pants and my flashlight. And I was in heaven, and I'd stand at the top of the aisle and just dream about someday doing that. And I'd pray and I'd say, dear God, please, please let me do this someday. Let me be one of those queens. Please let me do this. Fade out, fade in. I get promoted to Candy Girl. Now, I'm lousy in math. I'll tell you that. To this day, I'm lousy in math. But I could deal with the candy department because everything was 10 cents, 15 cents, 25 cents. A big box of popcorn was 50 cents. Big. So that was okay. Then one night, and I could duck over and watch the movies when nobody was buying anything. One night, the girl in the box office gets sick, and I am promoted to box office. And I said to the manager, I can't do this because tickets are like $1.79 or $3.96 or those odd numbers that everything always was. I can't do that. I can't do the math. He said, no. Look, all you do is punch in 2 tickets at $1.76 and then punch in $5 if that's what they give you, and it'll give you the right change. Well, we were $40 short that night.
Oh boy.
The machine gave more than it should have. And I got fired. And I stood there crying, saying, I didn't steal the money. I told you not to give me. I'm just bad in math. I'm sorry. I don't know how. And I got fired. Guess where my star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame is? Right in front of the friggin' box office.
Yep.
Is
now
that
that's karma.
or what?
That is karma.
That is awesome.
I just wonder what
That is-
happened
that
to
is-
that manager.
Oh, I can't like, especially after watching you come up through the years, they must have been kicking themselves, been like, oh my God, I fired that woman.
Isn't that something? Isn't that something? Well, but it's been a marvelous, marvelous life for me. And when I talked about the president of Lithuania, when he first came out to California the first time, I had a great big sit-down dinner party for, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 people, somewhere in there at my house. And what was very interesting is at that time, and that was President Valdas Adamkus, who, by the way, is the real American dream come true. He was not born here in the United States. He was born in Lithuania. And his parents literally fled Lithuania when the communist regime was coming to take over all those Eastern European countries, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Romania, everything. They fled and lived in internment camps and whatnot everywhere, and then made their way to the United States. And he was self-educated. He was made himself a multi-millionaire in business. The real success story of work hard, save your money, invest it, do whatever, And he thought that the best thing that he could ever do for the world was to go back to Lithuania, and he became president of Lithuania. And he mentored, while he was president, a young man who came to be his next to a son for him, because Adamkus never had a son. Mm-hmm. And President Gintas Nausėda is his name, came to the United States just a few weeks ago. And he had just one day in California, and he wanted to meet me and see me, because I had met him when I was in Lithuania, but he wanted to see me. And he came to my home, and I had a luncheon for him. And do you know that the security when he was coming, when this president was coming, was exceedingly high? Mm. The security people came to my house the day before, went through the house, asked about the menu, asked about the bathrooms, asked about everything. They were there in a slightly less presence being known for the luncheon that I had, a very small group. And it surprised me that when the first president came and I had 70 people there, nobody paid much attention. And I don't know whether it's because of the Ukrainian situation being so active or why. But Nausėda, this is some news for you, mm-hmm. is spelled Nausėda, Nausėda. Anne Gillian, you know, the beautiful actress, you must have her on someday because she's just fabulous. She starred in Sugar Babies on Broadway, and of course she starred in her own series and on television. And her maiden name is Nausėda. So they were to be at the luncheon, and I thought they'll compare and see, do they have some kind of familial connection down the long line? Because Lithuania is small. How many Nausėdas can there be? Yeah, right. And she was terribly injured, as was her husband, who's still, unfortunately, in care, as is she, the day before in a terrible car accident. And so she never got to meet up with the president, but I'll take her to Lithuania when she's well, and we'll visit there at the White House. It's kind of nice to be able to say, we'll go to the White House.
I'm sitting here like in awe. She's rubbing elbows with foreign dignitaries, and I'm like, hey, Leo and Ben, want to go get a soda?
Well, I mean, you said it took you 20 years to get Clint Eastwood on.
Clint.
Because you're very persistent and you don't give up. Which brings me to a lot of reasons why you have visited Lithuania. And that was because of your family, correct?
My family was born, raised, and married there. They wanted to get into the United States, and the quotas were closed. This was 29. And so what was the next best thing? Canada, right next door. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He got a job, my father did, working in the wheat fields of Saskatchewan. And he saved his money all through the year and had enough money now to bring my mother over. And they settled in Montreal, Canada. And my father and mother both worked for a tailoring concern there, and a very good man. And I was born there. And of course, after the war, before the war, they got out and brought into Canada my aunt, my mother's sister. Mm-hmm. They were going after now her younger brother. And then the war broke out, and there was no connection. There was no meeting of the minds, the spirit, or the souls. There was no connection whatsoever. Everything was over. After the war, my mother, through the Red Cross, was able to locate my grandmother. Mm-hmm. And where did they locate my grandmother? She and my darling little grandfather. Now, I'm not talking about the intelligentsia. Yeah. I'm not talking about the well-educated, the professors, the speakers. I'm talking about farm folk. They were rich because they had a cow. You know, that made a big difference for them.
Right.
They were both shipped off to Siberia. Mm-hmm. And you have to say, why? Why the hell were they shipped off to Siberia? Why? Because they were repatriating all those countries. They were taking Russians and putting them into Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and sending all of these people to Siberia. Why? Nobody could ever really explain.
No.
My grandfather died en route to Siberia. They were all being shipped out in those cattle cars that we see how the Jews were sent to Auschwitz and those places.
Yep.
They were shipped in the same thing. The men tried to huddle the women together to keep the women and the children warm, and his legs were frozen. And at one of the way stations, when they took off his boots, they took off the flesh with them. Gangrene has set in, and he died. And my grandmother didn't even know that he was dead. Nobody knew anything in those days. You did what you were told. You didn't question, or there was a bullet in your head, you know.
Yep.
And we located her there, and my mother started then sending packages. And we could send packages, 40-pound boxes, a pound of coffee, a pound of sugar, a pound of lard, a pound of butter, a pound of whatever could be tinned and done, and some clothes. And we could then, in those days, send old clothes. And so, of course, we put packages together. We sent many packages. And my mother was so brilliant about a lot of things. She would take $5 bills, $10 bills, $100 bills, and roll them into tiny, tiny, tiny little roundule things and sew them into the seams of some of the clothes we were sending. And then she would say to my aunts or grandmother, hoping that they even got the clothes, that shoulder pads are very popular in America, but I know they're not in Soviet Union. So, you know, you can take them out or whatever. And we hoped that they somehow managed to piece together what we were talking about. But eventually she was permitted to come back to Lithuania if she chose. She had hitchhiked across Siberia to find other members of the family that had been deported. And they preferred to return to Lithuania. And that's where I found her. And that's where I did the crazy thing of going out with friends when we got a letter from my grandmother, which took probably 6 weeks to get to us.
Right.
After she was in Lithuania, she never learned to read or write. She never went to school. So she was writing through a cousin of mine that she was living with, saying thank you for the packages we had sent to sustain them through all their years, through all their problems. And she had gotten word from a local doctor that she was about to die. So she was sending a thank you for everything and a thank you for the clothes to be laid out in, because that's very important to those Eastern European ladies. A beautiful scarf for their hair and a beautiful white apron to go over a black skirt, you know. And I went out with friends that night. My mother, of course, was in a spate of tears. I was in a spate of tears. The more wine they poured, the more evident it became to all of us that I should do something quite dramatic, and that is pick up the phone and call Khrushchev, which I did at some hour of the morning. I can't remember what. Had to be like 2 or 3. And I placed the call and I said, I want to talk to Nikita Khrushchev, the Kremlin, Moscow, USSR. And that bitch said, how do you spell Khrushchev? Well, who the hell knew how to spell Khrushchev? Anyway, long story short, I talked to the operator back and forth. And those days, guys, you're too young to know what person-to-person was. Person-to-person calls, you paid twice as much for as a long-distance call, but you didn't pay if you didn't get your party.
Right.
So I said, I want to make this person-to-person. So I kept getting the operator, Mr. Khrushchev, don't speak English. No, not yet, all the time. Finally, after my 100th call to the Russian embassy in Washington, where I also got to talk to everybody from the telephone operator to the upstairs maid, was niet. Finally, I get a call from the Russian operator. Mr. Khrushchev, no speak it English. You speak it with Vergashinsky, who interpreter for Khrushchev. And I remembered that this man was that very handsome young man that traveled with Khrushchev and interpreted for our Victorian ears all the language that Khrushchev was spewing when he was banging his shoe on the table. And my father, who spoke Russian fluently, used to laugh and say, what the interpreter said is not what Khrushchev said, you know. But that's all right. I said, fine, I'll talk to him. He said, Miss Lee, we know all about you here in the Soviet Union. We run your movies. What can I do for you? I said, I want to come and I want to bring my family. I had been told by the State Department not to take my parents because they could be detained as primary citizens of the Soviet. And he said, well, that would be very nice. We would love to have you here. We would be very happy to greet you. Why don't you talk to your congressman about it? And by now I'm beginning to more than sober up, and I'm headachy. And I said, Mr. Interpreter, what in hell does my congressman have to do with my traveling in your country? This is not a political matter. This is a matter of the heart. For all I know, my grandmother is dead. If she is, I'll go to her grave. If she's alive, I'll see her. You will be doing a great kindness to everybody. And he said, present yourself again to the Soviet embassy. And I thought, oh, shoot. Here we go again. I'm going to get another runaround. Well, this time, guys, when I called the Soviet embassy in Washington, I was immediately connected to the first secretary. And the first secretary happened to be Lithuanian.
Oh.
And I, of course, am fairly fluent in Lithuanian. But boy, you can tell that those hotlines between Moscow and the embassy must have been ringing. Because, let's put it this way, within 48 hours, my papers were signed, sealed, and I was on a Pan Am flight to Moscow and then back to Lithuania, and found my grandmother, who had been miraculously moved. Why? Because the Americans were coming from the little village and the dirt floor hut that she lived in to the main hospital in Kaunas, which is the second biggest city in Lithuania. And it was a wonderful hospital with fabulous staff, great people. But the hospital itself had nothing to offer except great staff and great care with what they had. They didn't even have aspirin. That was the communist system, and how everybody thrived under the communist system. Everybody was equal, but some were just a little more equal.
Oh, yes.
Right. Right.
It's usually
So-
how communism goes.
Yeah.
But it was thanks to people like you also. And the press, the world press then was so involved. James Bacon, whom you may know or not know, was the head guy for AP Wire Services, the head Hollywood man, a head honcho. And I had lunch with him the day before I left. And my PR person had said, you know, I think it's a good idea that somebody knows you're there, not just the Russians know you're there.
Oh, yeah.
And he did a story that hit front lines everywhere, front pages rather, on every paper in the world, including Japan and Lower Slobovia. You know, it was just incredible. But I never saw it because I was on the plane going, and they didn't run it in the Soviet Union. But it had to do with young starlet goes and fights Khrushchev for to get grandmother, old granny, out of Siberia, you know, all of that stuff. So it was quite a story. And of course, what did the Soviet authorities have to do but be nice to me? And they were, and they were extremely nice to me. Anyway, I brought her home 6 months after that. She couldn't travel then. She was not well. But 6 months later, I went back, and boy, talk about being nervy. That's traveling in the Soviet Union without help. When I went this time, Life magazine had a reporter there covering, and all of this happened, you see, because nobody was going into the Soviet.
Yeah.
And when I went back the next time, 6 months later, it was on my own. And talk about having to put on big girl pants. Wow. And now I had another life in my hands when I had my grandmother to worry about. So I would plant her at the American embassy rather than leaving her in the hotel. I left her there once, and then I got nervous because I told her, don't open the doors, don't answer to anybody, don't do anything. I planted her at the American embassy, and I did all the running around, not speaking Russian, of course. I speak Lithuanian, but not Russian, and trying to find people to help me. And it was amazing how many people there were that wanted to say hello to an American. I look different than anybody else. I light colors and pretty dresses and all of that good stuff. And they're all in their heavy drab work things, But they were very helpful. I found a young man because I had the coins, but I didn't know what was what to put in a telephone booth to call the embassy to say, I can't get through to the so-and-so, And there were people that would help me do those minute things that you knew really wanted to know more about America. And they just questioned how and what do we do? How do we live in their broken English, if any of them knew it. It was an amazing experience.
I can't even imagine.
But, when I brought back my grandmother, we didn't have jetways then, guys. We just had the steps that went down. And when we finally landed in California, she walked down the stairs, dropped to her knees, kissed the ground, and said, "Hello, America. Thank you, God." Now, when I stop and think how many people in this blessed country of ours have no frigging idea of how blessed they are. And I think we've missed something either in our parents or in our teachers or something that we find so much to criticize about America. And yes, there are many things to criticize, but there are so many things that we should be so grateful for that other people don't have. If we're so bad, how come everybody wants to be here and not where they are?
No, exactly. I was saying to my wife the other day, we're watching the news about what's going on in Israel and Gaza Strip and stuff. And I'm just like, we are so lucky to never have to wake up to wondering if a bomb's being dropped on our houses, stuff like that. It's just amazing.
I am so thrown by how many so-called educated young people, students, are marching and carrying on. And I'm saying, hey, wake up. Who lobbed that first bomb? It wasn't Israel. It was Hamas. What's the matter with you people?
It's a tragic situation over there. I can't even imagine what people are doing. Like, as we were saying, like, never have to go through something like that here. Never.
Never say never.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Never say never. But so far,
luckily,
so far.
And if we don't begin to appreciate what we have been given by the blood of other people and what we have managed to keep going in America, thanks to patriots who give a damn about our country.
That's right.
And to the people that go fight, like I said, in hellholes, then we should all be dropping down on our knees and saying thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Which this story is going to lead me to the next part of this. You released a best-selling memoir.
Yes.
I love the name of this.
Because of all this. And I love the name too, and I'm going to say it this time. Consider your ass kissed.
Consider your ass kissed. And I don't mean it rudely. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Right. Actually, my bottom is the best part, but so it comes from the bottom of my bottom, but by way of the bottom of my heart. I am so grateful to everybody in these wonderful United States of ours, in fact, in the world, who have ever turned on the television because I'm going to be on, or come to a theater to see me in performance live, or gone to a movie to see me and bought a ticket, or have given me money for my thalians. whether it's $5, $500, or $50,000, what can I do but say, please consider your ass kissed? And I mean it sincerely. And I know that there are places in the South that won't say ass. They'll say assets or but all I can say is, if Jesus could ride into Jerusalem on his ass, I can kiss it.
Well said.
Agreed.
Well said.
So now you're kind of like this like celebrity ambassador to Lithuania. Like you have presidents come to your house. You have, you're throwing shindigs. And all because you decided to go save your grandpa. Like, it's amazing to me.
Well, it started before that. I was, like I said, I was rather amazed that I was so well treated by the Soviet authorities when I was there, because I had done countless broadcasts for Voice of America condemning communism and what it did to the little countries that it simply took over, marched in and took over. The tanks took over. And I'm surprised they let me have my way at all, which I did in getting my grandmother out. Then I also got another aunt out. And so they were very, very good to me.
Wow.
And I just couldn't get over the change in Lithuania, and it happened in every country that became liberated. And I salute the beautiful young men and women in all of those countries, but of course I'm thinking now of Lithuania, that were willing to die under the tanks when they rolled over them, or the guns that shot them when the tanks were in Lithuania and they were marching for freedom for Lithuania. What heroes they all are. And I worry that the young people of all of those countries, including Lithuania, are going to forget what people went through to liberate those countries from communism, and how different the countries are. When I was there and it was fully under the Russian boot, it was gray and dark and pitiful. Restaurant menus would have a great big huge menu with 40 pages and one item available. It was cold. It was dreary. People were drunks. Why? Because I think I would have been a drunk too. It was the only warmth you got in that kind of ambiance, in that kind of place. And when I went back after it was declared free, wow, what a difference. Glowing, shining, pretty, a wonderful country and a great place to visit. And I have a lot of Lithuanian friends in Massachusetts. I think there are more Lithuanians in Massachusetts than there are in Lithuania.
I live in a town that we have a very large Lithuanian population, Westfield, Mass.
Oh, really? Westfield?
Yeah. When I first moved here, I thought it was Russian, but nope, they're all speaking Lithuanian. I was like, oh, I'm completely off on this.
Isn't that great? Isn't that just great? Well, I learned I guess the hard way, because I did it, that in the Soviet, the people were so used to being told what to do, what time to do it, and how to do it, that they were afraid ever to say no. And I was flying in another time, not during the regime then, but I was flying into Lithuania, and it was still communist held, with my husband. And I said, we'll go, instead of going through Moscow, we'll go through Leningrad, because I've never seen Leningrad and I wanted to see it. And we got on a Russian plane, an Aeroflot plane. And the young lady got on and we're taxiing down the runway, and then she keeps talking and we take off. And then she comes back on and she's speaking. And my husband says, in all of the Russian that she's saying, not once did she say Leningrad. I heard her say Moscow a lot of times, but never said Leningrad. And I said, oh, come on, what are you talking about? So now he goes up. I send him up, and he goes up to see her. And the young lady, and he comes back ashen-faced, and he says, "You won't believe this, but we're going to Moscow." Now, I had done a little bribing and whatnot and at the other end. And I said, "Oh, that's impossible. No, it can't be. Look, I mean, we got on, let's face it, the zoo in London when you get to Heathrow. But it was, Aeroflot Flight 129 this way, Aeroflot Flight 129, Aeroflot Flight 129, Leningrad this way. We did everything right. We weren't wrong. So I go up now, the Banty Rooster here, and says, "Excuse me, but I think my husband is not hearing correctly. Do I understand that we are going?" "Yes, of course, to Leningrad. This is flight 123 or whatever." "Well, captain say, everybody in plane, all 300 people, don't go Leningrad. They go Moscow. So we go Moscow. Only 3 passengers go Leningrad." So you see, it was one of those flights where you went to Leningrad
It's
first,
like
then to...
connecting.
And I said, "Excuse me, look, you see my ticket? You took it. It says Leningrad right there. Let's go to Leningrad." "Oh no, you go Moscow. You wait overnight. You go next day to Leningrad." No, that's not exactly what I have in mind. I said, "You tell the captain that this doesn't work. I am going to Leningrad to meet with the directors of the theater and the cinema and a big meeting about American films, etc. And they're going to be very disappointed. So you tell the captain to either turn this plane and take me back to Heathrow or take me to Leningrad." Well, I'll be damned if he didn't turn that plane and we didn't go to Leningrad.
Wow.
They were not used to hearing no. Of course, I lied through my teeth about meeting.
That's hilarious.
But the point was, nobody ever said, "No, you're not going to pull this stuff on me. I've got something higher in mind, So it worked. And I don't know, maybe that's why they let me in and let me out with my whole family and this wonderful visit. And they let me in and out again the second time and the third time. And then finally, when I went back to the liberated and now free Lithuania, what a difference it made. Oh, what a difference. It glowed. It glowed the way Broadway glows. It glowed the way everything we love about America glows, whether it's the wheat fields glowing or whether it's stage lights on a showbiz production. We have so much to smile and laugh about in the States, and I'm going to get off my soapbox now.
That was, I'm in awe. Like it's so cool
I'm
to be able to
speechless.
talk to you. I'm telling you, like this is like a highlight of our podcasting career, I guess you would call it.
Well, actually, because of the numbers that we have hit, we are now considered an online talk show.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
How wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I have been
I'll show you
your business too. I did a show called Talk of the Town with my girlfriend, Tony Holt Kramer. And I know how tough it is to interview somebody that gives you monosyllabic answers. I'm the kind, if you turn the mic on, I'll talk for an hour easily.
Oh, no, I love it.
And I know how tough it is when you say, "Well, tell me about how your new show was. Great, wasn't it?" And they go, "Yeah, it was great."
We've had those.
Something else to fill the space with,
No, you have great stories. This is
fantastic. The stories are amazing. One other thing that you have done is you've also done some voice acting.
Really?
Yes, I have. I did a series called The Frankenstones, and I had such fun doing that. I worked for Hanna-Barbera, who of course have done so much. I did a lot of their series, and I usually get to play the Wicked Witch or some hag or other because my voice is deep. not a little girl voice. And it was such fun to sit around on stools in front of a mic and make funny sounds and get paid at the end of the day.
Right.
That wasn't bad at all. In fact, that's one of the great joys of show business, is that we all in show business do what we love. We would do it for nothing. Let's face it. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You would do what you do also. Oh, I don't want your bosses to hear this.
Yeah.
We are the bosses.
Oh, well, good. Then you can pay yourselves. Give yourselves a raise. What the hell?
Oh, fantastic.
Nice.
But we do.
50% of nothing is nothing. Love it.
But I love television because it hits such a huge audience with one hello. Movies I love because so much care is given to each line, the way it's delivered and why, and the lighting, etc. So that you love that. I love live stage performances best of all, because there's nothing at all like that live breathing with you, sighing with you, crying with you, laughing with you audience. That's an animal that is so wonderful. And to get a standing ovation at the end of a performance, of course, that's gold. And then to get paid at the end of the week, woo, that's really gold.
You should have somebody writing the movie of your life, because my God, I would watch the hell out of this.
Right.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Well, I think that Consider Your Ass Kissed, of course, I want everybody to run out and get that.
Absolutely.
I keep saying COVID did in all of our small bookshops and everything. So I like for people to do those. They can order them for you. Or, of course, if you want it tomorrow, call Amazon and get it.
Yep.
It's on there. But this book I talk a lot about the different people in Hollywood and what they meant to me. And I gossip a little bit. It's a fun book to read. It's a very easy read. But I gave my grandmother and the story of the Soviets taking over Lithuania and all those countries very short shrift. I gave it one chapter, and it's worth so much more.
Yeah,
it's the juxtaposition of a young girl beginning to make her way in Hollywood, becoming a starlet and getting things going and getting attention, and a woman in Siberia not knowing what she was going to eat, how she was going to stay warm. That to me takes so much more, and it's so much more important than anything I have to say about my career. It's far more important, and I sort of feel like I will be doing much bigger work if I can actually sit down and do that book, because boy, I think that was the hardest job I ever had. I think I have such high regard for any authors who sit down and do this at a typewriter day after day after day.
Well, Ben's an author. He should know.
One page a day.
A page a day? That's all?
One page a day. If you can do one page a day, you'll have a book.
But what happens when you
Well,
get
no,
to
sometimes I do more than one.
Okay.
Well, I actually sit down and actually handwrite when I write, and then I go back.
Oh, really?
My second
That's what I do.
draft gets typed onto the computer.
Type.
Yeah.
I recorded
and then
all of it.
Oh,
I
nice.
recorded every bit of it. And then a fabulous friend of mine from Texas came in, a great PR guy, who is one of them that said, you tell such great stories. You really should do a book. And so he said, I'll come out and I'll record everything you have to say. And he did that for many weeks. And we recorded everything. And then, of course, he had it all transcribed and into written word. Well, of course, what he had transcribed was every dog bark, every fart, every phone ring, everything, So it was amazing to read all that stuff in between what I was saying and telling my stories. But then the hard part was, and you'll attest to this, that this is a nice section, but where does it go? Oh my God, I have to throw that out. Would anybody really be interested in this? And what to throw out, because you don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Right. So
right.
We have a couple more. Yeah, absolutely. So we only have a couple more minutes with this amazing legend. So last questions from the
This
panel?
may seem a little strange, but as in my world, you're a celebrity as you are. What's the last movie that made you really laugh?
Oh, I just laughed at something yesterday. What the hell was I? Oh God, I can't remember what movie I was watching. To really laugh and sincerely laugh.
Yeah, have that gut laugh. Just
God, what
stress
what
is just
it
gone.
really made me laugh. Um, can I get back to you on this?
Absolutely.
Serious. And I feel terrible that I don't know what movie I was watching.
Oh,
I
not a
was
problem.
so tired last night because the event was last Saturday, and I hadn't slept really in quite some time, not properly, and I went to bed at about 9:30, and I got up at 8:30 this morning. So whatever movie I was watching last night, I went to sleep on, but I laughed hard before I went to sleep. Oh, now I'm gonna have to look it up.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Oh no,
No
that's
worries.
great.
I laugh at everything, though. I find humor in absolutely some of the worst things in the world. I laugh at when old ladies fall down in the street. I laugh at garbage cans being blown down the wind and by the
Oh,
wind
yeah.
down the street. I laugh at all kinds of bizarre things. I think it's what keeps me sane and happy is that I don't take
Right?
awful things. I take them seriously and I do something about them. But most everything else in life I laugh at.
Yep.
Can't
So,
sweat the small stuff.
I'm now in the market for a new husband. I've decided
Oh, hi there.
because I have nobody to laugh with. I have my girlfriend to laugh with, but she doesn't go to bed with me. So I need to sit in bed with somebody and watch a movie and laugh. And so I need somebody. I need somebody that laughs more than they do anything else.
Excellent.
Well, I'm looking.
Okay, you'll get 10% of the wedding silver.
Oh, fantastic. Look at this, guys.
And Jeremy's very good at cleaning pools, from what we hear.
Yes,
Oh, very good.
I
Good,
clean
good,
the
good,
pool
good.
very well.
Well, it is just such a pleasure to be with you guys. And
Oh,
I'm
thank
so
you.
so grateful that you took the time and let me take your time and share
Oh,
your
no.
experience with you. And geez, now you're more than just an at-home podcast. You're all over the place. Congratulations and more power to you.
Yes, thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So, Leo, you got one last question?
I had a bunch, but I'll just do the last one.
You'll
Jar
only
Jar
getting one.
took all the questions,
I'm
I
sorry.
let him.
So one thing we like to ask is, you're an amazing actress, but what is something that is just you that you dork out about? Like we had Bruce Valanche on, and he was big into like the history of, like sunken vessels, and he really liked to dork out about that. Do you dork out about like horses or what do you
I
dork
think
out about?
I
I
think we
dork
need a
out
better
about
word.
all animals. I
Oh,
love
animals.
everything. Yeah. I'm not terrified of any animal except a snake and a dentist. And I'm not sure in which order those animals I can live without. But I love all animals. And my husband used to say, Ruta is the kind that would walk into a lion's cage and go, here, kitty, 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 and it'll be fine. I just love animals and I cannot stand abuse of animals.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that I would never kill anybody, but I would kill anybody that abused an animal. I just
Agreed.
have no patience. I have no regard, no respect for that kind of a human being. And, animals they're on the planet for us to take care of. If we're the smart asses that know everything, we should be, really guiding people and guiding our children not to be cruel to animals.
Absolutely.
Totally agree.
Well said. Well said. And on that note, Leo.
Yeah, we'll wrap things up. I want to thank everybody for watching this fine evening. You know me, just Google me. You'll find a bunch of stuff. Could be true, could be not. I'm not going to say which is which, but I run the Dorkening Podcast Network. Head on over to thedorkening.com. You can see a lot of awesome people there. And Ruta, where do you like people interacting with you on social media?
I'm on Facebook mostly, and my darling assistant helps me on other things that she does, and she'll say, look, there's this and this, would you like to answer? And I do, but I personally don't spend a lot of time on social media. I'm just too bloody busy with the Thalians and everything else that I have to do. I run several houses, and I'm lucky enough to have a place in Mexico and a place here in Palm Springs, and there's always something. The pride of ownership is a myth. It's lovely, but it's so much easier to just pay somebody the rent and let them. Oh boy. So I'm not out on social media as much as I'd like to be, but I will find you, or you'll find me, one way or another.
There we go. Awesome. Jar Jar.
Hey, I'm here every week. No, I'm not. I'm on Splash Pages every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. And then I also have the Re-Education of Nancy Ann Ritter, which gets dropped every Sunday. So there's 6 episodes out. Check that out. And check me out on Facebook at Jeremy Courtney.
Awesome. Benjamin.
So everything you want to know about us, stilltoking.com. From the comic books to the novels to the animation to the TV series to this amazing show that we do. We want to thank Ruta for coming out and hanging out with us. I mean, a true legend. I grew up watching her in everything. I mean, literally, I was sitting there today going, Hogan's Heroes and Three's Company, and I am totally blown away. Thank you so much for coming out and hanging out with us tonight. Everything you guys want to know about Ruta is in the show notes up above or down below, depending on where you're watching or listening to us. But to all our veterans and first responders, we want to thank you for doing what you do so people like us can do what we do. Stay safe. We'll see you next week. We're out of here.
Bye. Thank
Bless you all. Bye now.